There appears to be a 6 foot tall Asian male with short dark hair, black t-shirt, armed with a knife right now. Copy.
Welcome to another story unraveled.
Horror on the Greyhound. The Trans-Canada Highway stretched endlessly beneath the darkening sky, the hum of tires against asphalt a steady lullaby for the weary travelers aboard Greyhound Bus 1170. And for most passengers, the journey was nothing more than a quiet passage through the prairies, a means to an end. Some dozed off, others stared out the windows at the vast emptiness beyond, lost in thought. The bus was a microcosm of strangers, each carrying their own stories, their own destinations. But among them sat two men whose fates were about to intertwine in the most horrific way imaginable. One was a young dreamer, filled with life and eager to return home. The other was a man tormented by demons no one else could see. The events that would unfold that night would leave an incredible scar on all who bore witness. It would become one of Canada's most shocking crimes, a tale of unimaginable brutality, mental illness, and a justice system that left a nation divided. For those who survived, the memory of that night would never fade. The screams, the horror, the helplessness, a tragedy that would redefine fear. As the Greyhound bus pushed forward into the night, no one aboard could have known that for one of them, this was a journey with no return. Tim McLean was born on October 3, 1985, in Winnipeg, Manitoba. He was known for his adventurous spirit, kind heart, and infectious smile. Growing up, he loved the outdoors and had an easygoing personality that made him well-liked by friends and family. As he entered adulthood, Tim found his calling in the traveling carnival circuit, embracing the nomadic lifestyle and the thrill of the open road. He made friends wherever he went, always radiating positivity. His dream was to see as much of the world as possible, and he enjoyed the freedom that came with his job. Vince Lee was born on April 30th, 1968, in Dandong, China. He was intelligent and hardworking, earning a degree in computer science before immigrating to Canada in 2001 in search of a better life. Lee was quiet and reserved, often described as a loner by those who knew him. He struggled to find stable employment, taking on various jobs, including newspaper delivery and working at Walmart. Over the years, he began to show signs of mental illness, hearing voices and becoming increasingly paranoid. Unbeknownst to his friends and family, Lee was suffering from untreated schizophrenia, a condition that would soon drive him to commit one of the most gruesome crimes in Canadian history. On July 30th, 2008, Tim leaned his head against the cool glass of the Greyhound bus window, the steady hum of the engine lulling him into a light sleep. The 22-year-old carnival worker was heading home to Winnipeg after a long season on the road. He wore his headphones, drifting into his own world, unaware of the nightmare about to unfold. A few rows away, Vince Wei-Guan Lee sat stiffly, his hands clutched around a black-handled knife hidden in his bag. He had boarded the bus in Edmonton, a solitary figure with an air of quiet tension. No one knew of his inner torment, the voices whispering incomprehensible orders into his mind. As the bus rolled down the Trans-Canada Highway, Lee's grip on reality slipped further. Hours into the trip, Lee suddenly stood up. His eyes, dark and unfocused, scanned the rows of passengers until they settled on McLean. Moving with eerie calm, he walked down the aisle and took the empty seat next to the sleeping young man. No one paid much attention, just another traveler looking for a place to sit. The first strike came without warning. Passengers were jolted awake by Tim's blood-curdling screams. Lee's knife plunged into his body again and again, each thrust more savage than the last. A woman shrieked. Someone shouted for the driver to stop. In the chaos, people trampled over seats, desperate to escape. The bus lurched to a halt, its doors flung open as terrified passengers fled into the night. Tim McLean's cries faded, then ceased altogether. Through the windows, horrified onlookers saw Lee continue his attack, his movements mechanical, his expression eerily blank. Then, in an act that sent waves of shock through the crowd, he lifted Tim's severed head, turning it towards them as if presenting some gruesome trophy. The driver and a handful of passengers attempted to barricade the door, trapping Lee inside. Surrounding the bus as they tried to negotiate with the man now pacing the aisle, muttering to himself. The officers ordered him to drop the weapon, to surrender peacefully. But Lee wasn't done. As the standoff stretched through the night, witnesses watched in horror as he defiled the remains, consuming parts of his victim. The image would haunt them forever.
Badger appears to be a 6-foot-tall Asian male with short dark hair, black t-shirt, armed with a knife right now. Badger is armed with a knife and a pair of scissors, and he's defiling the body at the front of the bus as we speak. Zulu Delta 1 at your leisure, could you give me a shout? Okay, Badger's at the back of the bus, hacking off pieces and eating it.
By morning, the SWAT team made their move. Lee, now exhausted and compliant, was taken into custody without resistance. But nothing could undo the trauma he had inflicted. Nothing could bring Tim McLean back. The trial would not bring justice in the way many had hoped. In 2009, Vince Lee was found not criminally responsible for the murder. His actions deemed the result of untreated schizophrenia. He was sent to a psychiatric hospital, where he remained under care for several years. By 2017, he was granted full freedom, now under the name Will Baker. The decision sparked outrage. To those who had seen the horror firsthand, it felt like a cruel mockery of justice. Families across Canada questioned how someone could commit such a monstrous act and one day walk free. Would he do it again? Could it have been prevented? For Tim's mother, Carol Dedeli, the nightmare never ended. She fought tirelessly to change the laws surrounding criminal responsibility, determined that no other family would endure the agony she suffered. But despite her efforts, the ruling remained unchanged. Survivors of that night carried their own scars. Many were haunted by nightmares, plagued by the echoes of Tim's screams. Some never boarded a bus again. The Greyhound company would later discontinue its services in Western Canada, in part due to declining ridership. But for those who knew the story, the name Greyhound had already become synonymous with terror. For those who witnessed the unimaginable, the question lingered. Was justice truly served? Or had the system failed them all? In memory of Tim McLean, 1985 to 2008. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, like, and share. Comment below what you want to hear about next. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.